Now, Donald Trump has had two big financial victories overnight. His media venture, Truth Social, is going to be listed on the stock exchange tomorrow. It's set to almost double his wealth. And it comes on the back of a New York court more than halving the bond that he has to pay of $175 million now, meaning now he can post that bond and appeal the case. And while his other legal problems are still far from over, he's in a much stronger financial position, as I discussed with Kristin Tate.
Not just from a financial point of view, but from a political point of view as well. Things could not be going better for Donald Trump right now, given the circumstances. He continues to be very strong in the polls, actually beating Joe Biden in a number of them nationally. We now see these financial woes becoming more favorable towards him. I mean, really, he is doing so much better than any of the political analysts expected him to at this point, Chris. But I always remind people, we are still very far out from the election in terms of political timeframes. So Donald Trump and his supporters, we can't get too comfortable yet. We still have a long way to go. But yeah, things are looking much better than I think any of the egg-headed politicos on the left thought they would at this point for Trump.
Yeah, not to mention the way those border woes are really making things difficult for Joe Biden and creating that policy contrast with Donald Trump. Back in Australia, the big news out of US politics has been that interview that Donald Trump gave, in which Donald Trump said this about our ambassador in Washington.
I don't know much about him. I heard he was a little bit nasty. I hear he's not the brightest bulb. But I don't know much about him. But if he's at all hostile, he will not be there long.
Now, Kristin, Kevin Rudd is a hugely well-known figure in Australia. He's a former Prime Minister here. He was also Foreign Minister for a number of years. He's gone off to that Washington job under a cloud of controversy, really, because he said so many things blatantly antagonistic towards Donald Trump. Here's a sample of them.
I think the general consensus amongst anyone concerned with the public policy process, domestic or international, thinks he's nuts.
The essential problem for allies in dealing with the Trump administration, Trump 1 or Trump 2, is its essential internal incoherence because of the essential incoherence of the man himself.
Who could believe our luck that this madman called Trump could have been elected?
An incoherent madman who's nuts. Now, the point here, Kristin, is of course Donald Trump's the front runner now. He could become president again. Then our ambassador's in a completely unsustainable position, I would have thought. But he must be in a difficult position now. How does Australia deal with Congress, deal with issues across the aisle like AUKUS, while we've got an ambassador there with those sorts of positions on the record about the Republican presumptive nominee?
Yes, of course, that would be quite difficult. But I've seen these symptoms many times, Chris. It's quite obvious that Kevin Rudd is suffering a very bad case of what many people here in the United States are. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. And Kevin Rudd has a very bad case of that. Of course, he's trying to kind of walk back these comments now that it seems that Trump has a very good chance of winning back the White House. But it's not going to work. This guy has no spine. All of these leftists loved piling on Trump when it was politically convenient. But now that it seems that Trump might be in power again, a lot of them are kind of slowly and quietly trying to walk it back. But Donald Trump does not forget. He does not forget who his enemies are, who has not been loyal to him. And it's going to take a lot more than kind of timidly walking back comments in order to curry favor with Donald Trump if Mr. Rudd wants to keep his job.
It's very difficult to crab walk your way back through the swamp because the swamp has a lot of alligators in it. Now, I've got to get your thoughts on the latest faux pas by Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, have a look at this clip where she thinks she's singing along and dancing along with some Puerto Ricans, but I think we've got subtitles here showing that the Puerto Ricans were actually having a red-hot go at the Vice President. Yeah, there you go. She didn't realise they were protesting against her. An aide tells her what they're actually singing and she stops clapping along. Have a look. Kristin. This is cold, and she was cheering her own funeral.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you, Chris, if Joe Biden does not win the next election, the thing I will miss most is not having Kamala Harris around. I mean, she is just a constant source of entertainment with her faux pas and her awkward speeches. And it is just so awkward to watch her every time she goes into public. But she is so dislikable. I mean, people on every side of the aisle politically have bad things to say about her. And that was a very cringe video to watch, even by Kamala Harris standards.
Sure was. I'm going to finish off with something we don't do very often here, and that is praise Joe Biden. Have a look at this tweet from Donald Trump announcing to the world that he'd won the golf championship at his own golf course. He's the club champion and the senior club champion. He won them both. But hats off to the president, because he retweeted this Donald Trump tweet and he said, congratulations, Donald. Quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, you know, I have to take my hat off to the intern who clearly wrote that tweet, because the tweet was posted at about 8 p.m. our time, and Joe Biden is well in bed by 8 p.m. So hats off to whatever intern did that. Give that guy a raise, but we all know it wasn't Joe Biden.
Spot on, Kristin. Thanks for talking to us. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you, as always, Chris.